welcome back to the show. It has been a night of amazing guests. Now, it's Lewis Alsamari is here! Welcome along to Nuts TV. And I suppose the first question is, tell us your story, because it's the most amazing story we've heard. Almost more amazing than Touching the Void.
No, I think this is more amazing than you can't make this stuff up.
You can't?
You can't. Tell us.
We gotta read the book.
Well, tell us the short version.
Just give us a short version.
The short version. Okay, how do I put this in a short version? Grew up in the UK, went back at the age of 12, dragged into the military service at the age of... To Iraq. Dragged into Saddam's army at the age of 17 and a half. Spoke fluent English at the time, so joined the unit near Basra, and didn't want to stay there, wanted to get out, and I fled. Caught me, threw me in the military confinements, and the solitary confinements. And the unit commander says, "Why are you doing this to yourself? You know, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to send you to military intelligence, where you will be a spy working under Saddam's elite forces. And because you grew up in the UK, this is your payback for us sending your father to a scholarship in the UK." And I was like, oh, I'm going to be rich beyond my dreams, but I can't get out of Iraq, and I will probably have to, you know, come across situations where I will have to kill people.
Which is a horrible thought for you.
I know.
Did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
So that's what you go, 2 fingers to this, pal, I'm out of here.
Well, that's what I did, yeah. And I kind of fled. I got shot in the leg by my own comrades, and fleeing across the units, they opened fire because they do that at night because they're stray dogs. And I was like, oh my God. Stupid twat, this is me. And then I kind of made it to the main road, and this really nice gentleman in a taxi thought I was a rock at first, and then he kind of pulled me into the car, and he took me to a local anaesthetist, and took the bullet out of my leg, and I slept at his guest house, and he took me to Baghdad. From there, my uncle was waiting with forged documents, who took me to the Syrian border, and with the aid of some Bedouins, some nomads, they took me across the desert, which was the nightmare of my life, because I encountered a lot of difficulties in the desert on my own. They took me into the Jordanian desert because of my wounds. I got chased by wolves, and I opened fire on the wolves, and then I passed out by the side of the road in Jordan. And I was picked up by some Iraqi passers-bys who were traveling to Jordan. And I managed to get into Jordan. I worked for 1.5 years there. And I saved up enough money to buy a fake UAE passport, and then I fled to Malaysia with that passport, and I got in, and then I made it to the UK and as a political refugee. So it was great to be back home. It was great to be, you know, I was wailing on the plane when I landed in foggy England. Wailing
for joy?
Crying, yeah, tears of joy that I made it back home, because it's been, you know, when I was in the army, you know, I developed post-traumatic stress, and I lost all my hair, and I looked like a raccoon.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 18 and a half, almost 19.
And when you came back to England, did you have it all planned out, kind of what you would do? Or was it kind of like, okay, I've got this far, I'm now going to do this, I've got this, I'm now going to go there? And when you finally got back to England, did you actually have anyone, you know, did you have a plan?
Well, I was planning, you know, one step at a time to get to the Far East, to get into the country with that fake passport, to get out. That was the plan, to reach the UK. So yeah, I obviously I did, but I had a choice at the time to go to, you know, the States or Sweden, but I chose here because I grew up here. This is my home.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, in England, we worry about the fact we can't pay a tax bill. We worry about the fact, you know, we can't go on holiday to the destination we want. And you were having to forge documents and getting shot in the leg just to get out of a country. I mean, it's amazing, really. What was it, for people who don't know, obviously we just see the war in Iraq. What was it like living there before everything happened, you know, the Gulf War and the Second Gulf War?
Well, back in the 70s and the 80s, it was very affluent. It was one of the richest countries in the world, where the Iraqi dinar was $3.50. So, you know, Iraqis used to come to the UK and shop, and like Saudis do at the moment. But obviously then Saddam came in and devastated the country, almost like he was on a mission to destroy, you know, the infrastructure. And it was very lucrative for us Iraqis, and my father especially at the time in the 1980s, because you know, they came to our home, the Home Office came to us and said, your children have been in schools for 8 years, we want to give them British citizenship. And my father was like, no way, you know, it's like, they're Iraqis, they'll lose their Iraqi nationality, this is like gold dust. And now he's begging for a visa to come here. It's like the dichotomy or the irony is...
So that word, this is Nuts TV.
Yeah.
Now, when you actually got to London, your family, were they in London? Because they're in jail, weren't they?
No, they were still in Baghdad, and what happens is that the military police caught up with them, and they started hounding them for me to come back. And ironically, it's the same military intelligence that I would have been worked for.
Yeah.
I would have ended up working for. So they kind of interrogated them, and they tortured my brother, tortured my uncle. My uncle had this flashlight pointed at him for 3 days with his eyelids pinned back.
You are joking.
Yeah, and he was denied food and water. So, and he was like a high-ranking military official.
Is this your uncle that we've got here?
That's him. Yeah, I saw him in Syria last year.
And he served in the war, didn't he?
Yes, he was an officer in the Iran-Iraq War, and he's got an artificial leg because his leg was amputated during the Iran-Iraq War, planting landmines, and he was tortured. You know, he thought that they were gonna. He had some leeway with them, but the thing is, during the 80s, there was a big rush for Iraqis to go out and fight the Persian invasion, as they call it, fight for your pride, and that lasted for 8 years. And trillions of dollars later, albeit in the hands of the neocons and people like Halliburton, but that's a different story. But then 3 million people dead, and then they found out, the Iraqis thought, hold on a minute, this guy's on a rampage. This guy's putting us from one campaign to another, to another, to another. So the Iraqi people lost trust of the regime, and Saddam felt that he lost the respect and the love of the people. So they started to get more and more vicious. And that's why the stakes became higher for me, because you know, being in the army is one thing, but transferred to military intelligence is another. And I knew, you know, my uncle's words echoed in my ear that karma will come and these people go down. Don't go down with them.
And you just knew you didn't want to be there.
Absolutely. I mean, if I was still there, here's another junction for you. If I was still there, then what would have happened during this war, the 2003 war, was I would have been compromising UK and US battle plans. And had I have survived those, I would have probably been part of the insurgency that was leading probably the insurgency that's sweeping through today. But here I am on Nuts TV.
With the book.
With the book and starring in a Hollywood film.
Yes, because of course the book obviously tells about all your story about getting out of Iraq, but I suppose the upturn of it, you went from all of this, you went through it all, and then became a Hollywood star, starring in United 93 with Paul Greengrass, the director, which was probably one of the films of that year.
Film of the decade, I would say. I mean, he's my mentor, a friend, and I'm going back to see him next week to do another one of his movies called Green Zone, and starring the fabulous Matt Damon. So, you know, it's exciting times.
Wow.
And the reason I went into acting is because I came back to the UK and I trained as a lawyer, but I couldn't practice law because I acquired a conviction from stealing a sum of money from my previous employer, William Hill, the betting agents. And I transferred all this money to one of my uncles in Iraq so they can get my family out of Iraq.
So you did it for a good reason, but obviously the law's the law, I suppose. How did you get... I mean, literally, was it... Because you played one of the terrorists, didn't you, in 1993? And we all know how that film ends. Was it a hard thing for you to do? Because you were playing the part of people who've done some, you know, some horrible stuff.
Yes, but if you look at the movie isn't about stigmatizing those people. The movie, in essence, was about asking the pivotal question, where were the people at the top of the US administration at the time of the attack? They weren't there. And it didn't focus on the hijackers in their lives, because previous films did do that, like Hamburg Cell. They went into the lives of these hijackers. And that's been covered, and it's old knowledge. What Mr. Greengrass wanted to point out to you was, where are these people? Where's George Bush at that time? So, and then he brought in a human element to these hijackers, because you look at them and they're young boys that have been brainwashed. They could have been anyone. They could have been you, my friends, anyone that brainwashed by this horrible organization called Al-Qaeda, and they lost their lives and they took the lives of other people with them. So it's a pity that that incident happened, and it was horrific. I saw that on. I first saw that in a library in Leeds. I went in, I saw a picture of Bin Laden in the World Trade Center, and I thought, what the hell's going on? And a few years later, I was playing in the movie.
After everything you've been through, do you look at life in a positive way now? Because it must have been so easy at times just to have gone, do you know what, I give up, life's shit, I give up on it. Do you now see it as something to be cherished?
Yeah, I learned the most cherished thing in life is gratitude, and I wake up in the morning, I think I've got a great life. I'm in a my home, my country. I feel protected and safe. I can relate to you. I go to the Middle East, and I can speak to the people there, and they're from my heritage, but I don't get a sense of that much of relevance. I grew up here, and I have great lifestyle. I'm working in following my dreams, and I have a loving family and friends. So life's great. Yeah.
Well, Lewis, tell us where the book's out now.
Book's out now.
It is. It's called Out to Iraq. I don't think we've heard about that book. And we can see you. What's the next film you're doing with Mr. Greengrass?
Yeah, it's Green Zone, and that will be out in February 2009. But at the moment, I've just finished a book in a movie called BLACKLINE, which is the first of 3 movies called The Beirut Contract, and we filmed that in Beirut. I was out there, and there was a curfew, so we were locked in our hotels for a while. But I play the protagonist of a team of 3 private military corporations, and we go into Beirut to rescue a hostage from the hands of militants.
And when can we see this?
You can see it in October time.
Fantastic. Well,
and there will be an interactive console game with it.
Wow.
Lewis, I tell you what, we've had some great guests on Nuts TV the whole time we've been on air, and I think you have been one of the most fascinating.
Fantastic.
So I wish we could talk some more. Listen, let's give a massive round of applause to Lewis Al-Samarrai. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lewis. Good luck with the acting, and of course with the book. I'm definitely going to pick that up and read it.
You're going to nick that book there.
I am going to nick that book. Shh. It's time for a very short break now, but do make sure you join us back in 3 minutes for the final part of today's very live show.
Lewis Al-Samarrai, yes!